The world woke up in shock as the United States announced a seismic shift in its foreign policy: the immediate cessation of military aid to Ukraine. The declaration, delivered with an unyielding tone by Vice President J.D. Vance, sent ripples through the corridors of power from Washington to Kyiv, Moscow to Brussels. A move of this magnitude, unthinkable just months ago, has instantly rewritten the rules of engagement in one of the most volatile conflicts of the 21st century. The announcement has ignited a firestorm of speculation, fierce debate, and geopolitical recalculation. A grandiose twist that has left the global community breathless. For over 3 years, the United States stood as the principal pillar supporting Ukraine's desperate struggle against the onslaught of Russian forces. Billions of dollars poured into military aid, advanced weaponry, and intelligence sharing that shaped the battlefield dynamics. From the earliest days of invasion, Washington positioned itself as the defender of democratic sovereignty, bolstering Kyiv with the latest arms and unwavering political backing. This support was more than mere strategy. It was a symbol of American resolve to contain Russian expansionism and uphold the liberal world order. But now, that unwavering support has been withdrawn abruptly, sending shockwaves far beyond the immediate combat zone. European capitals, long reliant on American military largesse, find themselves grappling with the daunting reality of a conflict suddenly recalibrated without their chief patron. In Ukraine, the announcement sparked a wave of disbelief and panic, with leaders scrambling to understand the new chessboard before them. Russian officials, predictably, hailed the move as a vindication of their strategy, while global media outlets exploded with headlines capturing the breathtaking magnitude of the shift. The political establishment in Washington itself reels under the weight of the decision. Within the halls of Congress, voices clashed sharply. Supporters lauded the end of what they call endless war, while critics condemned the abandonment of an ally as reckless and short-sighted. The media landscape is ablaze with analysis and counterpoints, with pundits debating whether this signals a turning point toward peace or the prelude to a far more dangerous escalation. This historic pivot does not merely affect military logistics or diplomatic alignments. It strikes at the core of the United States' global posture. The message sent is stark. America's willingness to intervene militarily in protracted foreign conflicts is waning, and the burden of defense is shifting, forcing allies to reconsider their strategies and commitments. The world watches with bated breath as the fallout unfolds, aware that the reverberations of this decision will be felt for years, perhaps decades, to come. Beneath the surface of this official declaration lies a labyrinth of intrigue, whispered rumors, and concealed agendas that fuel an ever-growing storm of speculation. The stated rationale, a strategic pivot towards seeking a peaceful resolution, is met with both cautious optimism and deep skepticism among experts and insiders alike. What truly propels this abrupt withdrawal of military support? Is the public narrative a carefully crafted veil concealing far more complex forces at play? Some sources close to the corridors of power in Washington hint at intense internal divisions that have been simmering for months. Political factions fiercely debating the cost-benefit equation of prolonged involvement in Ukraine have finally tipped the scales. The relentless expenditure of financial resources, mounting casualties, and the growing fatigue of the American public have generated an inexorable pressure on decision-makers. It is said that some influential voices within the administration advocate for disengagement, arguing that further military aid only prolongs a conflict with no clear victory in sight. Adding layers to this geopolitical chessboard, energy interests and global economic calculations appear intertwined with the decision. Analysts note that the recalibration may be influenced by a desire to stabilize relations with key players such as Russia and China, whose cooperation is deemed essential in navigating the increasingly fraught global economic landscape. There are rumors of discreet back-channel communications, a secret diplomacy unfolding away from the public eye, possibly involving concessions or agreements that remain shrouded in confidentiality. The approaching summit between former President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin has only fueled the fire of conspiracy theories and speculation. Observers question whether this landmark meeting might be a catalyst or consequence of the U.S. policy shift, with some insiders suggesting it could herald a new era of realpolitik and pragmatic détente, albeit at the cost of abandoning Ukraine's battlefield ambitions. Meanwhile, alternative voices and independent analysts propose a more cynical interpretation. They warn of covert deals and compromises struck under pressure from powerful lobbyists, financial magnates, and geopolitical strategists whose interests align with a reduction in direct confrontation with Russia. This move, they argue, may reflect a broader strategy to recalibrate global power balances, shifting from overt military involvement to subtler forms of influence and control. As these theories swirl in the public discourse, one fact remains certain. The world stands on the precipice of an unprecedented transformation in international relations. The intricate web of official statements, leaks, and off-the-record briefings suggests that what we witness is but the surface of a profound and perhaps tumultuous reordering of global priorities. The implications ripple far beyond Ukraine, hinting at a tectonic shift whose final shape remains elusive. The seismic withdrawal of American military support from Ukraine immediately casts a long shadow over the intricate web of global alliances and power balances. This decision is not a mere tactical retreat. It signals the dawn of a new geopolitical era whose contours remain shrouded in uncertainty, yet promise to reshape the fate of entire regions and alliances. The reverberations are felt acutely in Europe, where the very foundations of collective security appear shaken. Ukraine, the epicenter of this unfolding drama, confronts an abyss of challenges. The sudden halt in weapons shipments and intelligence cooperation leaves Kiev's defense apparatus vulnerable at a critical juncture. Military strategists warn that without sustained external backing, Ukraine's ability to resist further incursions weakens significantly. This vulnerability could tilt the fragile front line, potentially forcing Kiev into concessions or desperate maneuvers. The humanitarian toll, already devastating, threatens to worsen as displacement and civilian suffering escalate amid a protracted conflict that now seems less winnable. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization finds itself at a crossroads. European allies, heavily dependent on American military power and logistical support, face a harsh reckoning. Discussions intensify over whether to increase their own defense spending and operational readiness or seek alternative strategies to contain Russian advances. This unprecedented shift may accelerate debates about Europe's strategic autonomy, spurring moves to develop indigenous military capabilities independent of Washington's patronage. On the global stage, other powers watch with a keen, calculating gaze. China, long observing the Ukraine conflict as a litmus test for American resolve, may interpret this move as an opportunity to assert greater influence, particularly in regions where U.S. presence is viewed as waning. Moscow, emboldened by the withdrawal, could leverage its newfound diplomatic advantage to strengthen ties with its allies and negotiate from a position of strength. The delicate balance in the Middle East and Central Asia may also shift, as regional actors recalibrate their policies in response to a redefined American posture. The question remains whether this pivot will lead to a genuine de-escalation of hostilities, or, paradoxically, to a more volatile and unpredictable conflict. Some analysts warn that reducing military support might encourage more aggressive tactics from Russia, believing the West's resolve has faltered. Conversely, proponents argue that this could incentivize renewed diplomatic efforts, potentially unlocking pathways to peace that have eluded negotiators thus far. Sanctions regimes, economic pressures, and diplomatic initiatives form yet another battleground influenced by this decision. Will the West maintain its economic stranglehold on Russia, or will cracks appear as the unity of the coalition is tested? The economic consequences for Europe's energy security, global markets, and investment flows add further complexity to an already fraught geopolitical tableau. In essence, the withdrawal of American military aid is a catalyst for profound geopolitical realignments, with reverberations that could echo for decades. The world now watches with bated breath, acutely aware that the unfolding chapters in this saga may redefine the principles of power, alliance, and sovereignty in the 21st century. Inside the United States, the decision to halt military support for Ukraine has unleashed a political tempest, exposing deep fissures within the government and society at large. The announcement has crystallized the ideological battles that have long simmered beneath the surface of American politics, turning them into a fierce public confrontation. It marks a critical juncture not only for the nation's foreign policy, but also for the future trajectory of its leadership under President Donald Trump. Within the Republican Party, the response is far from monolithic. A vocal faction champions the move as a bold assertion of American interests, an end to what they characterize as an unnecessary and costly foreign entanglement. For these supporters, the cessation symbolizes a reclaiming of national sovereignty, a rejection of endless wars that drain resources and divide the electorate. This group, increasingly influential within the party's ranks, views the decision as emblematic of Trump's broader agenda to prioritize domestic concerns over global commitments. Yet, not all Republicans are aligned. Several prominent figures express unease or outright opposition, warning that abandoning Ukraine risks damaging the United States' credibility on the world stage. These dissenters caution that such a drastic pivot may embolden adversaries and alienate key allies, potentially isolating America in international affairs. The ensuing debates in Congress have been fiery, with sharp exchanges highlighting the fractures and uncertainties that now grip the political landscape. The Democratic Party has seized upon the announcement as a moment of crisis. Leaders condemn the decision as reckless and short-sighted, accusing the administration of betraying a vital ally and undermining democratic values. Calls for accountability echo through media outlets and legislative chambers, with demands for renewed commitment to Ukraine's defense. The controversy has become a focal point for partisan battles, intensifying polarization as both parties vie to define the narrative for the American public. Public opinion mirrors this division. The American populace, fatigued by years of conflict abroad and wary of economic pressures at home, is deeply conflicted. Polls reveal a nation torn between wariness of further involvement overseas and moral support for Ukraine's plight. This ambivalence feeds into the broader national discourse about America's role in the world, sovereignty, and the costs of intervention. For President Trump, the stakes could not be higher. The decision encapsulates his administration's contentious approach to foreign policy, one that breaks with traditional bipartisan consensus and challenges established norms. It fuels both his base's enthusiasm and his opponents' fierce criticism. As the country hurtles toward upcoming elections, the ramifications of this policy shift may reverberate profoundly, shaping political alliances and voter behavior. The path ahead is fraught with uncertainty. This internal political maelstrom underscores the complexity of governing in a time of geopolitical upheaval. How the administration navigates these treacherous waters will determine not only the fate of American foreign policy, but also the durability of its political institutions and the very character of the nation's leadership in the years to come. The abrupt cessation of military aid to Ukraine has sent shockwaves not only through diplomatic circles, but also through the economic and social fabric of the United States. The decision's ripple effects are felt across multiple sectors, reshaping markets, influencing industries, and igniting passionate debates among the American people. As the nation grapples with the consequences, experts and citizens alike voice concerns and hopes amid this unprecedented transition. From an economic perspective, the immediate impact manifests in the defense and energy industries, both deeply intertwined with foreign policy. Defense contractors, long reliant on government contracts tied to Ukraine's military support, face sudden uncertainty. Orders for sophisticated weaponry, ammunition, and technological systems have been curtailed, triggering layoffs and a contraction in production lines. Stock markets reflect this instability, with fluctuations capturing investor anxiety about the broader implications for U.S. industrial sectors. The energy sector, too, experiences tremors. America's complex relationship with global energy markets is in flux, as the shift in Ukraine policy influences oil and gas prices, supply chains, and international partnerships. Analysts debate whether this move could lead to increased energy cooperation with Russia or prompt new efforts toward energy independence. The specter of rising prices and disrupted supply raises alarms for consumers already burdened by inflationary pressures, adding a layer of economic strain domestically. Socially, the American populace reacts with a mixture of resignation, outrage, and cautious pragmatism. Protests erupt in some cities, with activists decrying the perceived abandonment of a democratic ally and warning of moral decline. Conversely, segments of society express relief, viewing the move as a necessary step toward ending America's role in protracted foreign conflicts. This polarization mirrors the political divide, underscoring how deeply foreign policy decisions resonate within the national psyche. Experts and analysts weigh in with sobering assessments. Some caution that the economic fallout could extend beyond immediate industries, potentially destabilizing regional economies dependent on defense contracts. Others highlight the risk of broader geopolitical instability feeding back into domestic markets, creating cycles of uncertainty. Meanwhile, humanitarian organizations raise alarms about the indirect costs. The deepening crisis in Ukraine may trigger waves of refugees and increase demand for international aid, challenges that could draw American resources and attention. In sum, the decision to withdraw military support reverberates far beyond the battlefield. It touches the everyday lives of Americans, reshapes economic landscapes, and fuels social debates that reflect a nation wrestling with its identity and global role. The road ahead is fraught with challenges and contradictions, a testament to the complex interplay between foreign policy and domestic realities. As the dust settles on the unprecedented decision to cease military support to Ukraine, the world stands at the edge of an uncertain abyss. The full scope of consequences remains elusive, cloaked in shadows of speculation and cautious anticipation. Governments, analysts, and citizens alike are gripped by questions that defy easy answers. What comes next in this grand geopolitical drama that has captured global attention and redefined international norms? Among the many unknowns, one fact shines clear. The decision has unleashed a wave of instability whose ripple effects could cascade unpredictably across continents. Will the withdrawal embolden Russia to press its military advantage, accelerating the conflict and risking a wider regional conflagration? Or might it, paradoxically, open cracks in the frozen stalemate, incentivizing diplomatic negotiations that have long languished in deadlock? Observers note a growing atmosphere of nervous pragmatism among world leaders. Behind closed doors, emergency meetings convene, strategies are reassessed, and contingency plans drafted. The alliance structures that have long underpinned global security appear fragile, with trust tested and old certainties eroded. Countries once reliant on American leadership are now compelled to chart their own courses through a labyrinth of risks and opportunities. Intriguingly, the decision has also sparked a surge of clandestine diplomatic activity. Insiders report a flurry of back-channel communications and secret dialogues, seeking to manage tensions and explore new frameworks for conflict resolution. While details remain confidential, the very existence of these efforts signals a recognition of the urgent need to stabilize a volatile situation teetering on the brink. At the same time, analysts warn of the dangers inherent in the vacuum left by American disengagement. Power struggles, regional rivalries, and competing ambitions threaten to fill the gap, potentially leading to new conflicts or exacerbating existing ones. The delicate balance of power, once maintained through a complex web of alliances and deterrence, now hangs precariously. The global community's reaction is one of collective holding of breath. The world awaits the next move with a mixture of hope and apprehension. Will diplomacy triumph over discord? Will a new order emerge from the chaos, or will the unfolding saga spiral into unforeseen turmoil? These questions fuel intense debate across think tanks, parliaments, and public forums. In this charged atmosphere, one certainty remains. The cessation of U.S. military support to Ukraine marks not an end, but the beginning of a new chapter in the story of international relations. A chapter defined by uncertainty, challenge, and the relentless pursuit of stability in a world irrevocably changed.